I think this is a really good opportunity to talk about some of the communication structures that have developed between adults and children, and especially in early childhood.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's very helpful to distinguish three kinds of dialogues. That's a distinction from philosophical pragmatics, for those who are interested. So the first kind of dialogue you just mentioned, they're called organizational dialogues, and they're really ubiquitous. So we're organizing what we're doing all the time. And the second kind of dialogue are so-called descriptive and normative dialogues. They say how something is or how something should be done. For instance, the water in the puddle is brown would be a description of the water in the puddle. Or we take off our shoes before we get in would be a normative statement. Even
so
though it looks like
Let's talk a little bit more about these organizational dialogues, because I think that's really quite interesting. Since we had an initial conversation, Ramiro, I have examined my own behavior, not with my daughter because she's only 10 months, but with my husband. And I am making a conscious effort to not only use organizational dialogues in our home. I think we're doing okay. Even before that we did, but I noticed them so much more now. So tell us a little bit more about
organizing ourselves all the time.
Yeah, right. So what's an example for it, for a typical organizational dialogue in an early childhood setting?
Well, in daycare centers, you have all these dialogues about taking on or off your clothes, shoes and jackets when coming in or before going out. Getting to table for lunch.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even getting the pencils in order to use them for drawing. So you're constantly talking about what should be done next and who's going to do it. So you might be asking a child to fetch the pencils, or say, come on, we're all getting in now, it's time for lunch. And and that's really a vast majority of the utterances. My colleagues recently run a study in German kindergartens with a focus on interaction quality. And preliminary results suggest that really the vast majority of speech acts in kindergarten settings, in German kindergarten settings at least, are organizational dialogues. And then there are some descriptive and normative dialogues, which sometimes blend in well with the organizational kind of talking. But sometimes are just used to talk about something. I don't know, you might be talking about how blue the sky is, or that cloud.
Or ask the child to, pardon?
Or that a certain cloud looks like an elephant or something like.
Would that also be a question you ask the child? Something like, "What did you do on the weekend?" Is that also a descriptive dialogue?
Yeah, sure. When the child just said, "We've been to the zoo," that would be a description of what the child was doing on the weekend. Sure. Then there's a third kind of dialogue, which we didn't mention yet, and which we think is cognitively especially worthy,
worthwhile or beneficial.
Worthwhile.
Yeah.
And that's called an explicative dialogue. That would be a dialogue in which you engage in explaining a phenomenon, or in thinking about why something happened, or what's likely to happen next, and things like that.